Welcome to the Wellness League podcast with your host Ella. And today my friend is Paige Allan. Paige is a SANFLW player, all-round legend, and you know what? We used to work together, and I thought, since we're in the week of the AFLW Grand Final, why not get somebody better on to talk about all things women's sport, ACLs, and, AFLW Grand Final chat. So, let's dive in. Firstly, who are you?
Well, I'm Paige Allan, so I play with West Adelaide Footy Club. I've been in the SANFLW system since its inaugural year, which was 2017. So yeah, going into my 8th season of SANFL.
Nice. And what's your earliest memory of being fit?
It was probably just before the SANFL seasons actually started. So in 2016, they did some baseline fitness testing off of like some of the girls that had been in like state programs and stuff like that leading up to it. So yeah, when we did the baseline fitness testing then, it was kind of, a bit of an eye-opener on some of the things that we got tested on, like sprints and jumps and your classic beep test and stuff like that. I'd always found that I struggled a lot with anything that was longer distance and endurance. Like I'm very much more of a power and sprint sort of athlete.
Short, fast, and quick.
Yeah, that's it. And I think like doing the different types of testing, like I'd always thought I'm not super fit because I can't run a quick 1K or a 2K or whatever it is. But yeah, being able to do the different types of fitness testing, I was like, oh, maybe I do have a bit of fitness behind me. It's just in
a different type.
That's it, different realm. So, yeah.
During your childhood, like back to schooling times, were you playing heaps of sport then?
Yes, yeah. I was never not playing sport. I think at one point I was playing 8 different sports at once.
How did you go remembering all the rules and being on like the quarter one, but not like...
Yeah, no. It was pretty tricky and a lot of like organisation and timing, and we'd have like a weekly calendar at home so mum would know where we were going for trainings and games. And
do you remember what all these sports were?
Oh gosh, so I was playing soccer, netball, basketball, cricket, athletics and swimming, and then I started footy and Gaelic a little bit later.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Was there ever a point when you were playing like basketball and you like went to throw it like a netball, or like netball and you started to run down the court with the ball?
There was one time when we had like school netball where we'd verse like other schools within the district, and at the time I was playing footy, and there was one intercept I did on the court, and I've pretty much gone and done a specky on one of the girls, and obviously it was contact, and so yes, it was a little bit embarrassing, but most of the girls just laughed it off because they were like, oh, it's
just a footballer on a netball court.
Exactly.
So good. And so from the testing in your SANFL, then where'd you go from there?
Yeah, so after all the baseline testing was done, that's when they then introduced the like SANFLW competition that they were wanting to create. So when it was first established, it was just West Adelaide, Glenelg, Norwood and North Adelaide.
Yep.
So at the time, I was zoned to North Adelaide. So started out my SANFL career there.
Were you already playing at a club level as well at this point?
Yeah. So I was playing with Salisbury Football Club.
Yep.
So I had been involved within the state program, and a few of the players that I'd made friends with there were out at Salisbury, so I started playing at Salisbury.
Is it the rumours true you were playing with some Crows players out there?
That is true, yes. So, Jess Allan, Sarah Allan. It's funny, we have the same surname, it's spelt the same. So a lot of the time, we joke around about us being cousins or, being related, but they're actually completely different. I'd never met them until football. So, we just happened to have the same last name. I remember a commentator once in one of our state games making a joke about there being... I think there was a passage of play, and it had gone from Allan to Allan to Allan. And he's going, oh, there's so many Allans out here. It's like a packet of lollies.
That's a good one. It's like a Bruce McAvaney comment with that.
Exactly.
So good. And then so from North, how long did you play there?
So I was at North for 4 years, and then it was 2020. We'd had a change of coach and a bit of a change of structure within the team. And so the role that I was playing, the coach didn't really see it fitting in the team anymore. And so, I did hit a bit of a standstill and kind of had to evaluate, where I was going to get opportunity and where to go from there. And so I had a few offers from a couple different SANFL clubs. And at the time I was like, well, if I'm going to get a better opportunity somewhere else, then
why not?
I guess it's time to part ways, sort of thing. And which was something pretty difficult because, I've always been a very loyal player. So it's like wherever I've started, that's where I'm staying, sort of thing. But I guess when you're in that more like elite environment, there is that, am I in the right environment to grow? Is this the right place for me? And
it's an interesting thing in sport, knowing when that you need to move up or move on to something better to help yourself. Like, it's great that you've been part of a team and that's where you started, but sometimes it's hard to make that move, but you need to help yourself in the future.
Yeah, and that's it. It's like, I remember hearing a quote once about like the value of water. So it's like, water might cost 50 cents at the supermarket, but you buy a bottle of water on the plane and it's $6. It's the same thing that you're getting, but it's worth so much more because you're buying it somewhere else, so you're getting it somewhere else.
That's such a good saying.
Yeah. It was something I came across and it just kind of stuck with me because it made me feel a bit more comfortable with decisions that I was making.
Yeah, like, so you became from the supermarket water to then the plain water by moving clubs. Yeah, so you went to the Centrals then, and how long were you there for?
So I was at Centrals for 2 seasons. My first season, it was kind of, I guess, getting back into the swing of things after being off the radar for a little while. And,
so going back to North, how many games did you play?
I'd played 29 games at North, which doesn't sound like a lot across 4 seasons, but our first SANFL season was only 6 games.
Yeah, so you had a full season.
Yeah. We've grown quite a lot over the years, which is, exciting to have been, a part of it from the start. And so I did play a good chunk of my footy out at North and then played a couple of seasons at Centrals. And then it was, sort of a very similar situation. New coaching group, new structure of the team.
Yeah.
They were after new things and I just, felt very stagnant again. And I had kind of hit the point where I was like, oh,
I need to be more expensive water.
Exactly.
So you went to the hotel level for the boss water time.
Oh, yes. Yeah, no, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, I'd kind of had lost that passion for the game. And I think they were wanting me to play a role, that didn't really cater to my strengths and to what I love about the game. And
so James was saying in the last episode that if it doesn't spark your joy anymore, you either need to find a different way to do it or get out of it.
Yeah, exactly. No, and I think that's something you've always got to come back to because it's like, this is a big part of my life. So what is it that's happened now that's made it more of a drag or a chore than an actual, enjoyment or something you look forward to?
And so how many games did you get out of Central in those seasons?
Ooh, testing my maths now. I think I ended up playing 17 games out of Centrals.
Yep.
So about a season and a half. Yeah. Because I got to the second half of my second year and I actually ended up taking some time off because I just had kind of hit the point where it was like quite mentally and emotionally draining. And it was a very stagnant point in like my footy career because I was like, footy has always been like my love. Like, what I've been. Do
you always put this down to a bit of coming out of COVID as well, playing through that season and then that was around that time, right?
Yeah. It would have been just after all of the COVID restrictions and stuff had kind of worn off and we were getting back into, the normal swing of things. And and I suppose, going through COVID and lockdown, like you spend a lot of time with yourself and with your thoughts and you just kind of reevaluated a lot more and found out a lot more about yourself. And I think the main thing going from Centrals to Westies was remembering like the same feelings I'd felt at North. And, I was like, I don't want to be in that point again where I'm spending a whole season trying to prove, my worth and myself and just ending up losing that confidence in myself and on the field. So
and letting the water to go down the drain.
Exactly.
This is going to stay for this episode now. I'm onto this. That was such a good one. And so what position were you playing? Did you stay at the same position throughout each club or?
Yeah, no. So at North was a winger. Central started off as a winger and then they tried to transition me into a full forward sort of role.
Yep.
Which is a lot less running and, carry the footy, and it relies a bit more on your body strength and being able to out body players. And I'm not the biggest body on the field. It was contested footy is always something that I've kind of struggled with a bit because I'm not I'm not super big. So yeah, I just had kind of lost the joy for the game and the passion. And I was like, my eyes light up if I see a free passage of play,
Yeah.
and I can just take it down the wing, go for a run, chuck it under my arm,
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah.
And Westies now, how long have you been there?
So this will be my second season out at Westies. So yeah, I had my first pre-season with them last year. It was very tricky, very similar thoughts and feelings going from North to Centrals and then from Centrals to Westies. And then there's also, what are other players going to think? What are other clubs going to think? All the things go through your head. But at the end of the day, you kind of do what's going to be best for you and what's going to work for you.
Yeah.
And yeah, as soon as I started the pre-season out at Westies, I kind of felt all of that love for the game again and all that passion come back. And,
nice.
There was coaches and they'd be encouraging all the good things that I was doing, and it's it had kind of felt like some of that had been overlooked in previous seasons, so it was just really nice to hear those things again and rebuild that confidence within myself.
So within the SANFL now, have you played for more clubs than you haven't played for now, in the percentage of teams left?
No, so
how many more clubs have we got to go through before we can say, is there a medal for playing at every club in the SANFL?
Oh gosh, I definitely know there's some players out there that have beaten me, actually. There's some players that have been at more than 3, so yeah, no, I think it, especially with the season I'd had at Westies just gone, I definitely feel like I've finally found my home and my place, and I could not commend the coaches and support staff there anymore. It's been amazing, and it's just it's incredible when you find that environment to thrive in. What you get out of yourself.
Absolutely. At the moment, you're obviously going through an injury. What's happened? And
Yes, yeah. So after a very exciting pre-season with Westies, and getting really keen to be able to chuck on a new Guernsey and rebrand myself, I started off the season pretty well. First couple of games, we'd versed Glenelg North, so they were previous finals players the year before, and we'd beaten them, and we were bottom of the ladder, so I don't think anyone had expected much from us. But yeah, we came out guns blazing, and then it was round 3 against South, and we'd already had a couple of players down in the game, just injuries that had happened, throughout the game or leading up to the game. So yeah, we were running pretty thin, and then the coach has said to me just before the final quarter, he's like, Paige, we've got a few on the bench, can you run out the whole quarter on the wing? I was like, yep, no dramas, that's all good. And then there was a contest on the other side of the field, so I've run over to the contest, I've handballed the footy out of the scrum, and just as I've handballed the ball, one of the South players has come running in to tackle me, and the tackles come in a little bit late, but she was kind of at that speed where it was you've committed, can't stop now. I was mid-stride, so all of my weight was on one leg, and then as I've been tackled, my legs twisted one way it was not supposed to twist.
Oh,
and
God.
I heard
the good old pop.
The classic pop, and I think the player that had tackled me heard it as well. She got up straight away and she's just gone, I'm so sorry. I think she was in shock herself. Everyone was in shock. It was just I had a couple of players come up to me because we were 2 points down. There was about 5 minutes left in the game. It's a crucial moment, and I was thinking this as I'm on the floor in agonizing pain. I'm we're a couple points down. I can't be doing this. One of the girls has come up to me and Paige, you need to get off. We don't have time. I was like, yeah, I know. I can't get up. And she's run off. And another player's come up Paige, come on, you need to get off. We were 2 points down. I was like, yeah, I know. I can't walk. We need to call the stretcher. Because I was thinking at least if the stretcher comes out, regardless of what's happened and how bad it is.
Time then.
Exactly. We've got some time on. So I was still thinking for
the team.
The benefits of the team while all this was happening. And then, it was all a lot of shock and adrenaline at the time.
Yeah, I heard something this week about ACL injuries. They are super painful at the start. Then the pain just clears completely within, is it 10 minutes or something? And you feel like you haven't done anything?
Yeah, so I think generally that's how it's supposed to go.
Okay.
For me, it was a little bit. I had a few other I guess pains along with that.
Okay.
So the actual ACL itself must have been the pop that I'd heard, and then I'd looked at my knee when I grabbed it, and my patella was out of place. So I dislocated the knee, and then I'd also, after getting an MRI, there was quite a lot of bone bruising between my femur and my fibia. Mm-hmm. So my legs have literally just played British Bulldogs and
Oh, God.
banged into each other. So, because there was, our captain also had done her ACL in the same game the quarter before. So I remember we got our MRIs on the same day, and then we both came to training the next day.
ACL buddies.
Yes, not exactly, the thing you want to be sharing, but yeah, going to training the next day and telling the girls, and our captain Maddie was fine, she's walking, and I'm there in a big knee brace and a couple of crutches, with the exact same injury. And I remember the first thing I said to my physio when he told us both the news, I was like, well, how come Maddie can walk? And yeah, so... yeah,
but her kneecap wasn't on the other side of her leg.
Yes, yeah. And I think they said that a big lot of the pain that I was experiencing would have been like the bone bruising as well. So, yeah, generally it is supposed to be one of those things where it's like, oh, it just happens and then, you can start walking. Or, I've heard of some people that can even still run in straight lines. Like,
wow.
Yeah. But no, I wasn't so lucky myself.
I've heard this happening a lot in women's sport, and I think a bit of research is going into it. Why do you think it's happening so much more to women at the moment than men? Like, I've heard it has something to do with maybe the boots you're wearing aren't designed for the female foot. But then I was looking on the Johns Hopkins medicine. Sounds a bit sounds like I know what I'm talking about here, but they were just saying the makeup of the knee in women is just not full of as much muscle as a male, so it doesn't have the stability to be able to hold it in place. And so simple things like a big hit like that or changing direction has a bigger impact on a female knee than it does the males.
Yeah, and I think there's a few different things that come into play. Like, obviously, body composition is completely different between men and women. I think we've got stronger quads, but they've got stronger hamstrings.
Yeah,
and I believe the hamstring protects the ACL a lot more. And so, yeah, I know it's a few different things, and I know they've looked into, the design of boots and this and that as well. And I think, honestly, a big thing is there probably was a lot of ACL injuries prior to like recent times, but I think now that women's sport is
blowing up
under the limelight a bit more, these injuries are actually getting exposure in the media, and it's I think if anything it probably was similar numbers to before, but it just wasn't really recorded.
Yeah, that's very true. And I think after the World Cup and like sports like soccer and football where you are moving in those different directions, and like your netball and your basketball, but it's not really spoken about as much in them. But like I'm watching so much of the women's soccer league at the moment, and all these like really good players are coming back after these knee like ACLs, and I think it also is because the research now is being funded so that it is being spoken about a lot more, and people are now finding ways to prehab and rehab it better.
Yes, yeah,
whether that is with surgery and without.
Yeah, and I think like even a few of my friends that have done ACLs like 3, 4, 5 years ago, like even their timeline looks so different to what mine does now, because it's just there is so much more research out there, and they found so many different methods. It's like, well, no, we shouldn't put them in a full leg cast straight after surgery. We need to get it moving as soon as possible. Like I
think with a lot of orthopedic things like hip and knees, they try to get you moving pretty fast now.
Yeah, it was the next morning after surgery, the physio had come in. She's like, all right, bend your knee. And I kind of just looked and I was like, okay. And that's your first, 4 weeks is just trying to get flexion back into it.
And so what surgery did you have?
So I had patella tendon graft. So a lot of the time these days they opt for either a hamstring graft or patella tendon. And I know that a lot of girls have struggled in the past rehabbing a hamstring as well as their knee, because you lose quite a lot of strength.
And they are both big muscles that you quite need.
Yes, exactly. And I guess my thinking was kind of, well, if I use patella tendon, then all the pain will be localised within the knee.
True,
The surgeon kind of, much preferred the patella tendon graft as well. And so I was like, I'm going to take any advice you've got, because I've never operated on a knee. So,
and because this was a footy injury, it's all covered as well, right?
Yes, yeah, that's right. Yeah, so there's like SANFLW insurance, and then there's also insurance that your local club's got. So yeah, Westies, able to help out with that, which is one less thing to stress about. Going through all of this sort of stuff, which is really great. But
and then the rehab, how'd you go? And what does the rehab for something like this look like these days?
Yeah. So they want you up and walking pretty much straight away. So I think I'd managed to ditch the crutches by day 5 after surgery.
Yeah, nice. The quicker the better with get those away.
100%, yes, yeah. Also, I have stairs in my house, so
Oh.
that was that was a little difficult to adjust to. But then again, looking at the silver lining, it's really good for the rehab. Having to go up and down them every day. It was a bit of an adjustment, but we got there eventually.
Did you ever think, I'd love a chairlift in my house right now?
Absolutely. I think it was the night I'd gotten home from the injury, and I thought, how am I going to get to bed?
So did you get really big arms by crawling up?
Absolutely. I think my first, because for the first 3 months, you can't do, so it's no running for the first 3 months or until you've been cleared with enough strength to be able to start. So it's normally somewhere between the 3 to 4 month mark. And so a lot of my gym work prior to, the 3 month mark was purely upper body, all arms. So
nice.
It was very, very top heavy. But I mean, you do what you got to do to kind of keep, your headspace in the best it can be. Because
Did you get into the pool at all as well to get the rehab with that?
Yeah, so lots of hydrotherapy as well, which is good. Like, it's very low impact. You can get a lot of movement back into it. And was able to do a fair bit of water work, which was really good for it.
Yeah, nice. So we're 7.5 months in now. How's it looking in terms of your rehab?
So pre-season's just started back up. So have just started going back into like some controlled change of direction. A lot of like drop, jump and hopping sort of work.
I remember so I used to work in the gym and used to come and train in there, and you were always jumping on and off that bloody box, and I'm like, is she okay? And it's called the jump program that everybody was doing, that all the athletes who came in.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's a lot of like your landing and your technique and stuff that they get you to work on, because a lot of that is, ACL prevention. Back into the swing of things with that sort of stuff again, and then a lot of like controlled change of direction, still at no contact at the moment, because obviously they don't want to introduce that too soon. The graft takes 12 months to heal, so
okay, right,
you go back into the swing of things too quick, and then your graft's no good anymore. So it's very much like a month by month, tick the boxes, you go sort of thing. If you're ticking the boxes, you can progress. If you're not, you might be stuck at one point for a little bit longer.
Yeah, nice.
But everything's been rolling along pretty well so far. I think it's just managing that balance between hard work and recovery.
Yeah.
Because, you've got to have the right balance, otherwise you overdo it.
How are you keeping the rest of your body fit enough to be able to get back on the field?
A lot of the cardio work that I was doing was swimming and stuff in the pool. You can get back on a bike pretty quickly as well, once you've got your flexion back in your knees. So a bit of bike work too. We've got lovely little arm grinders at Westies gym.
They're like the arm bikes.
Yeah.
Oh, so
good. I was on the arm grinder almost every night that was left.
Got to keep the biceps looking good, right?
Exactly.
You can't wear a footy Guernsey without good arms.
Exactly. So just trying to incorporate cardio any other way that's possible. So that was a lot of what I did, and I've always been a bit of a water baby too, so I was more than happy to jump in the pool and clock a couple of kilometers there. And it's a completely different fitness in the pool as it is on land, so it's really good. I think
you still got the cardiovascular side still staying strong there, which is like really important, whether it is on the pool or land. But so what's next in the rehab, and then when are you due back on the field?
So I've got final fitness testing at the 11-month mark, which will be February, and then I'll have a 11-month MRI in February as well. So if I get the surgeon's tick of approval and the physio's tick of approval, I'll be good to go for round 1 next year, which will be in March. So,
nice.
That's very exciting. But still kind of just trying to take it 1 month at a time and keep ticking the boxes, not getting ahead of yourself too quick, but at the same time, credit where credit's due, and being able to acknowledge, what you've done and how far you've come. And I think the next goal would be, I think after Christmas, incorporating some controlled contact and getting back into that again. So it'll be very fun.
And talking about getting back on the field, this is for Westies, right?
Yes.
And so I think the SANFLW is changing up next year in terms of the time of the starting the season. Do you want to chat about that and what the changes are?
Yeah. So initially our seasons have always started in February, which is the tail end of summer, we'd always cop a 36, 38, 40-degree game.
Oh, lovely.
Which was always hell to work with, but you do what you got to do.
Pity it's not a sport that you can take inside, to be honest.
Exactly. Oh, gosh. The joy of being able to have some fans or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think they've moved the season forward a month. I believe they're trying to gradually line it up a bit more with the men's season.
So is the idea that they're going for in the future that we're going to play AFLW, then the AFL men's straight after, so that you can have all the crowd that are going to the men's to see the women's game too?
I believe long-term goal, that is what they're looking at.
Yeah.
And
That'd be intelligent to do, though, because
Yeah.
you're getting the people to the men's game. What's the point when you can just come a couple of hours earlier,
Yeah.
enjoy your corporate box, and get 2 games in?
Exactly. And it does give, the women's game that exposure as well.
Yeah.
And I think, yes, the game is played slightly differently. We're built completely different to the men.
But that's what's good about it. Like,
Exactly,
it's the same
yeah.
game, but yeah, it's tactically so different, which is better. You're not
Yeah.
watching the same thing twice.
Yeah, exactly. I know a few of my friends that, come out and spectate. A lot of them enjoy watching the women's game because it is less brawn and a bit more of that, skillful side of things.
Yeah.
They've got to nail the technique and the skills and
they're less likely to go and knock each other out with a punch.
Yes. You'd hope so anyway.
Yeah. As we were talking about before we recorded, let's talk about the World Cup and how that has improved the view on women's sport. I think that was such a huge event. Well, we knew it was going to be big coming into Australia, but I don't think anybody realised that having a huge world event like that would do what it has done to women's sport so far.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think, even myself, even having played soccer in the past, I was never the huge soccer fan.
Exactly
because,
the same, yeah.
It's a bit, it's not as exciting as some other games because it's not as, there's not always something happening. But I think watching a couple of the Women's World Cup games, it was I think it was so much, you get so much more out of it because the girls were so much more personable.
Yes.
And they had that humility factor, they were out, with the fans and
making the effort to,
yeah, it just seemed, they seem so down to earth and authentic. It's you feel like you can relate so much more, so you do have so much more heart in it.
I think coming into, so when the tickets got released, they obviously sold out really fast, and then people started realising what an event it was going to be and went and bought more. And I think I was one of those people. I've always watched the Matildas over the years, but it's so hard to watch because it was never broadcasted on the main channels. And so then when it came to the World Cup and being such a big event, it just made it really hard because half the games weren't even on the main channels. It was on a paid subscription on bloody Optus Sport. And I think that has also done a big thing for women's sport now, bringing the rules that big events like this can no longer be on big subscriptions like that, and they will be on the free-to-air.
Yeah, exactly. Because, at the end of the day, like you said, the tickets are selling. People are wanting to see these games. So it's why not give them the same amount of airtime as the men's comp?
Well, I think it's shown now. But the 3 games that were in Perth in November, they had set those to be in 10, 15,000 capacity stadiums. They sold out so fast that they had to move those to the bigger capacity stadiums because so many people wanted to go.
Yeah.
I just think AFLW was a couple of years behind that, and I really hope that's where it's going to go in terms of, people wanting to be there.
Yes, yeah, definitely. And I think I think the AFLW brings a similar sort of vibe to the Matildas in the World Cup. You know, it is very much that the players do have that humility, and they're very personable, and they're so grateful and appreciative of their fans because it's not something that they have always had.
Yeah.
I think that is a big difference between the women's sport and the men's sport realm. It's just there's so much more gratitude to, what they're given and what they've got. And it's something that you can it sits with your emotions a lot more.
Oh, of course. I think, just showing that more people are watching it. But even now in the last couple of weeks since the Olympic qualifiers, I have so many people the girls' game is so much better to watch. And how much people are starting to say that now is amazing.
Yeah.
And people are going to follow the overseas kind of games and follow what's going to happen, especially into the Olympics next year.
Yeah.
But then the same thing happens with the AFLW. They were saying for next season that if they can get so many more memberships to sign up, they'll allow the season to go longer in the next couple of years.
Yeah, yeah. Which is going to be a win-win for everyone. I mean,
Yeah.
these girls train a good 5 or 6 months in pre-season to
Yep.
play 10 games.
Yeah.
It's pretty rough when you think about it like that. That's quite a lot
Isn't
of a
there a
lead
couple
up.
of girls who play in the AFLW that did play soccer and came over?
Yeah, I believe so. So I think Jess Waterhouse at the Crows,
Yes.
she's an ex-soccer player.
Right.
Mariana Rucic, who is retired now, but yeah, she was an ex-soccer player also at the Crows.
It's interesting, the different shape of ball, but yet the game is very similar.
Yeah. I think it's just like the ability to be able to like translate the skills from sport to sport. At the end of the day, like an athlete's an athlete, you know, if they've got the skills in one sporting code and they are transferable, then it works.
Yeah.
I think sometimes they have tried to do that early on and it hasn't been as successful. But then again, like there is nothing really that's shaped like a footy and it always does what it wants no matter what you do with it. So yeah, it is a tricky one to work with. But there's soccer to footy sporting code. There's even been a couple of girls out at Westies that have been in the same boat. Kelly Baltrop, she used to be a soccer player, I think a like top level goalie, and so you know that's a prime position because you're catching the ball at least, so you know it's similar to marking, and it's good to see the different sporting codes that come out and try footy and can use, you know, those
Do you
skills.
think the difference between soccer and footy is like the netball basketball kind of thing, like similar rules, but the ball's different, whereas like the difference between basketball and netball is the running with the ball?
Yeah, wow, I've never thought of it
And
like
neither
that.
have I.
Yeah.
You just like thought of it when I was talking to you because I know that a few of the basketball girls have come into the AFLW too.
Yeah, I
Like
think that's
Erin
a pretty
Phillips
good...
and all those as well.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good like comparison, you know, netball, basketball, soccer, footy, and I think
you're all playing with balls.
exactly. And I think, you know, the basketball to footy, even more so, like that's probably, rather than the foot-eye coordination, they've got that hand-eye coordination.
Already,
And it's just
got to run a bit further.
That's it, being able to drop the ball on the boot and hope it goes where you want it to go.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty good comparison there.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks. Better than apples and bananas. So where's next? What would you like to see in the next couple of years out of your career in footy?
Oh, the dream would absolutely be to get drafted and be able to play AFLW.
What team though? This is like I know you wouldn't mind which team you went to if anybody called you up and was like, "Hey Paige, I need you on my team." But I mean, like, if you had a choice, where are you going?
Well, I've always been a Crows supporter
Good.
through and through.
What are your thoughts on Crows getting to the final this year? Why we're coming? Because this will come out around the same time as the grand final. Are we going to make it in?
I think that, you know, the Crows AFLW side this year have shown a lot of like cohesiveness.
Yes.
And I think, yeah, their ability to work together and move the footy the way they have and even just be able to like back each other in and, you know, be there for each other. Like that camaraderie on the field is so hard to beat no matter who you're playing. Like if your team is working together well, that is very hard to break.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Do you feel like as women in a sport like this, trying to get a team to work together well, whereas the men are like, I don't care who I'm with, I've just worked together?
Yeah, no. I think there definitely is a lot more emotions involved when it comes to women in general, and then obviously like, you know, women in sport. So I think, yeah, that can be both a weakness and a strength. Because, you know, if it's working in your favour, then you're stuck together like glue. Like there's no one getting through. But then obviously if there's a bit of clickiness or cracks within the team, that also shows and falls apart a bit. So yeah, it's being able to put aside anything you might need to for the greater good of the game. And I think that that's something that clubs are now seeing and being able to work with and put in place. You know, a lot of clubs are getting a wellbeing officer and things like that. So it's good to be able to incorporate those things within the sport.
And then the other talk about at the moment within the AFL League is bringing in like a SANFLW league, but for Australia-wide. So what do you think about that? So like a secondary AFLW, like a reserve team, Australia-wide competition.
Yeah, right. Okay.
I heard about this the other day.
Almost like an A League and a B League.
Kind of that they would be the reserve team to the AFLW, but you play the other state rather than just having your SANFL and like your VFL and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, right. Okay. No, that's interesting. Yeah, and I suppose like that gives a good opportunity for clubs to be able to expand their list and you know expand their squads and stuff, and you get a lot more depth within your squad that way as well. So no, that sounds like a pretty
I can't believe you haven't heard of that.
Yeah, I know.
I actually can't even
You
say
got
I
the
have.
inside info.
I actually don't. But somebody told me they read it in the paper this week, and I'm just gonna claim that. I kind of love my trusty boot camp members for that. There you go. It makes me sound really smart. Coming into sport, who are your role models in the female side, or anyone?
A few like players that I looked up to throughout my footy career would have been Chelsea Randall. She actually played a season out at Salisbury. So
were you there at the time?
Yeah. I remember being on the field and watching her grab the ball, and it honestly looked like she would just fly across the field. Like, she was untouchable. It was amazing. And yeah, we even at the time, like at Salisbury, we had an award which was the Club Champion Award. So it was the most number of umpires' votes plus club votes all collated, and it was for the entire club. So it was women's, men's, A grade, B grade, everything. And yeah, Chelsea had won the Club Champion Award that year, and everyone like got around it so much. Like men, women, everyone, like they were all just in awe of like the talent that she holds.
You know what, I would have loved to see all the men's face in that room when she walked up there and got it.
Yeah, no, I think, to be honest, I think we're super lucky at Salisbury. Like, it's such a family club. You know, the men would play their A grade game, go off, get changed, and then there'd be the women's A grade straight after, and they'd all come out, you know, under the veranda, beers in hand, you know, cheering us all on. So yeah,
that's what you love.
We were very lucky with the club that we had there.
Nice. A sliding door moment in your life that has made you change decisions and your life path. What was it?
I think a big one for me was the decision to like change clubs, as we spoke about a bit earlier. Being able to identify within yourself, you know, what you're capable of, what you have to offer, you know, just because it might not be seen by certain clubs or people, it doesn't mean that, you know, there isn't something that you're able to give somewhere else.
Yeah.
That they do want, and they do want to grow and thrive. So yeah, I think that was probably a big one for me, and I've been able to use it not only within sport, within the workplace as well.
Yeah.
There's been times where I've changed positions or moved jobs because I'm like, well, I'm not getting appreciated for as much as I'm putting in.
I think that's very important. I feel very much the same on that one.
Yeah.
And sometimes like a job or a sport or something has their time and place in your life, and you need to know it's hard, but you need to know when to shut that door and move to the next best thing. That's
exactly right. Yeah. And I think, it gives you a lot of perspective just on a lot of, you know, different avenues in life.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think making that first decision and doing that when I did, you kind of put aside the effect it's going to have on everyone else, and you think about how it's going to affect you, which is hard to do because a lot of us are people pleasers, and, you know, we want to make everyone happy, but and you hold that guilt sometimes, but at the end of the day, you know, if it's going to be what's best for you, then everything's going to work out the way it's supposed to anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like there's always, I like to say, you have those goals, but it's the journey on how you get there is the more interesting part.
Yeah, definitely.
So the mental side of sport you were talking about, how did you kind of train and work around that to help you play at your best performance?
It's always been a little bit tricky personally for me. So I've struggled with PTSD for a few years, so post-traumatic stress disorder. So it does put you in situations sometimes where you do fall a bit more anxious, or, you know, that anxiety will hit you, and there'll be certain things and you're kind of like, oh shoot, I didn't know that was going to set it off sort of thing. So kind of put in situations where it's like, all right, this is what's happening right now. Let's deal with it. Let's work through it. And I think for me, the biggest thing was finding like things that ground me. So, you know, if it's on the field, I often have a piece of sports tape around my wrist, and I'll write a few cues on there.
So good. I thought you were going to say you do a bit of the Mary Fowler and have like a band around your hand, but you can't really do that in football.
No. But I guess sort of similar. Yeah. So I've got like a few cues that I'll have on that piece of tape, and it might be something. Often the night before a game, I'll have a dream about the game, and it'll be something that's gone really well or really bad, and so it'll be in relation to that, and then it'll be like something one of my coaches has said, something my nieces have said before the game, or something. It's just a few things to kind of take me away from
what's
that
happening
overwhelming state,
and
you kind of just reground yourself. So
that's such a good idea. Do you have any pre-game rituals? We spoke to Astrid about this, and she said she had a couple. So what's yours pre-game? What do you do? Or the night before? What's your prep look like?
Yes, so always pasta the night
Yep.
before.
Oh, I love that. I think Sam Kerr does the same thing.
You can't go wrong with a bit of carb loading.
Yeah. Is it the same type of pasta every time?
Yes,
And do you cook it or does somebody else?
Well, actually, it depends. So if I'm feeling super nervous, I'll cook it myself because it keeps me like distracted
focused
and
on
moving.
it. Yep.
Otherwise, I'll just go the old like faster pasta or pasta go-go.
What's your order?
I normally go the ravioli Milanese.
And a bit of G bread?
Yes, absolutely. You can't go past the garlic bread.
Yeah, nice. What advice would you give to any females getting into a sport or AFL like you are?
I think the biggest thing to consider is like to make sure that it's something you're passionate about.
Yeah.
Because if you've got that passion, it's going to benefit you. It's going to benefit the team.
James said that in the exact same words in the last episode. Like,
yeah.
If you're not interested, don't bother.
Exactly. And I think, you know, it shows when people are involved in a sport or in a team and they're kind of just there because they can be or because the opportunity's there. But you don't take every opportunity that's given to you. You take the ones you want. So if you want to be there, be there. But if you don't want to be there, there's probably someone who wants your spot next in line that wants to be there.
Yeah.
And, you know, they'll give 110%.
Yeah. So your tip is if you want to be there, put everything in.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And so let's talk about the importance of like prehabbing before injuries. Back when I was working in the gym, you always found that was really important. I always remember you were saying that you were like always put everything into prehab and recovery so you could stay at your highest performance. Do you still believe that?
Oh, absolutely.
And what's your best way around it?
I think that being able to identify what, especially like being in women's sport, obviously we've spoken about like the body composition differences between men and women and stuff like that as well. I think being able to work with all the resources that you've got at the club, so your S&C coaches, your wellbeing officers, everything like that, just to make sure you're ticking all the boxes, to make sure you're in prime performance to be able to give as much as you can. So I think doing, you know, those constant jumps and hops off a box, and it's the little 1%ers that aren't the most exciting thing.
Yeah.
But, you know.
And find yourself a coach like Tom Howland to keep you in tune.
Exactly. And it's always good to work with someone because a lot of people, well, I think everyone, I think we're all guilty of being super harsh on ourselves. And so,
I think that goes back to the mental side as well.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
If your mental side is not in shape for performing at your highest level, it's going to trickle down and ruin everything else.
Oh, 100%. And I think that's the point I'd gotten at a couple of times in my career. It was like, I'm not getting as much out on the field because I'm not clear in my head.
Yeah.
And I think the most important thing is to make sure you've prepared as well as you can for that.
The tough thing about like the mental side as well, it's not a physical thing, so you can't really... Do you know what I mean? It's not like an injury to the body that somebody can be like, oh, you're broken, right? It's such a thing that it's getting spoken about a lot more these days, but mental health is so hard because nobody actually knows what you're going through.
Yes, exactly. It's not, you haven't amputated your arm and it's bleeding. Like, It's something that's happening internally, so a lot of the time you can struggle to get, you know, that empathy or that support because, and even if it is happening internally, it can be hard to verbalise that.
Oh, absolutely. Because
like,
sometimes I feel as women we mask it a lot and we can just put a smile on our faces and, do you know what I mean? It's so easy to hide something like that.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah, and I
I'm
think...
a big advocate for having that group around you and talking when you need.
Absolutely. And I think that is a big thing. I think women do tend to try and hide it because it's like women are so emotional, women are this. It's like...
We're already put down enough. Like, give us a minute.
Yeah, exactly. But I think the biggest thing and the biggest strength is being able to talk about it and being able to be open about it and be like, yep, I am struggling. This is what I want to do to fix it. You know, finding a solution, I think, is the strongest thing you can do rather than trying to hide it until it bubbles over and
then you burn out.
Exactly.
Yeah, interesting. I'm as I said, a big advocate for like mental health because it's just nothing worse than being so anxious on the daily basis and then nobody like. I just wish more people around these days would ask like, "How are you?" But in a way, not just I'm alright, mate. It's more like, what's really going on inside.
Genuinely caring about the
Yeah.
answer that they've given
Yeah,
you.
yeah. I
Definitely.
with my friends, we'll have a chat and then I'll just like message them back, be like, how are you really?
Yeah.
And like, I love to like push them off guard, but that's when they really come out and think, do you know what I mean? Like, it's,
Yeah, definitely. And like I'll do the same. You know, a couple of teammates might say, "Yeah, I'm okay," or "I'm all right."
Yeah.
I'll go, "Oh, only all right," or "Only okay."
Or I like to say, what's on your mind? You know, like the Facebook status thing. What's on your mind?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Sometimes it is enough to just open that door a little bit, and then they open it up themselves, and it's just something that they probably didn't realize they needed until it was a situation they were in. So
Crazy, yeah.
it can carry a lot of weight.
I have a few friends that like you'll get into a conversation over a coffee and stuff, and then you come out and you're like, holy crap, I feel like I just took a backpack off. Yeah, so good. I think that's also comes back to make sure the team around you are people who you know that can support you and be there for when you need them.
Definitely. And just being able to surround yourself with like genuine people that do just care about what's going on with you.
They're hard to find in the world, but once you find a couple of them, keep them close.
That's exactly right. That's it. It's all quality over quantity any day of the week.
Absolutely. So what are your 5 tips for somebody starting out? So it doesn't necessarily have to be AFL, but for a female getting into like an elite sport.
Yeah, all right. Probably touch on what I said before, like make sure it is something that you're passionate about. Before you do jump into something new, just understand the commitment that's required.
Yeah.
It's going to be different at each level that you play at, but as long as you understand the commitment required and you know what you're willing to give up for that, go for it. A big one would be like your non-negotiables.
Yeah.
So like within sport, life and work, how you're going to balance it all, what's going to happen.
Yep.
One of my colleagues said to me the other day, because I've just started work back at a workplace that I'd previously been at, and she'd said to the hiring manager at the time, football's a non-negotiable for Paige. If you can't work it into her schedule, she'll tell you to go stuff yourself.
Yeah, that's a good one though.
Yeah, it's true. Like football's not something that I would give up for anything.
That's like mine is like being fit and healthy in the gym. Like if you get anywhere in between me and my gym, like get stuffed.
Exactly.
Like it's not something I'll ever give up in any capacity because it is back to the mental side. It is my break. From the world. Like it's somewhere where you can go and escape. So that's a very good one.
Yeah. And then the other two would be consider the changes that you'd need to make now and whether you'd be willing to make these changes, because I think committing to a sport, you forget how it does affect everything else.
Yeah.
And it's not something a lot of people realise until they're in the thick of it. And then it's like, oh, shoot, what have I done? Like, so, if it's, a matter of training 6 times a week, watching what you're eating, watching your water intake and all that, if that's going to be too much, then maybe
it's not for you.
Yeah, that's it. And the last one would be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. One of our coaches preaches it quite a lot. And it really gets you thinking, because at the end of the day, you make the most progress when you're uncomfortable, really.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think that really covers everything we've spoken to. That uncomfortable thing and how important that is. This single arm pull-up, why and how? I saw that you made it happen the other day on your Instagram. Can we explain that?
It's funny, actually. So the whole chin-ups thing came
You've been doing that for years. Anyway,
Yes.
I remember you doing that back in the Arc gym.
Yeah,
and I'm
exactly.
like, dude, I can't even do a pull-up. And you're doing it with one arm.
Yeah, so the chin-ups started back in 2019.
That's when I met you. I was, I reckon we met the end of 2018.
Yeah. And so towards the end of 2019 was when I dislocated my shoulder. And it was throughout my shoulder rehab, and I was working with Tom, and we were trying to find different things to put into that rehab program that's going to be beneficial for the rehab. And a big one was chin-ups. So it was just like, it initially started chin-ups with a band with a little less resistance, and then till it eventually weaned off of it. And then it was neutral grip and then wide grip, trying all the different techniques and stuff. And then throughout this rehab, obviously, like I said, the first few months was very heavy on upper body, and we were in the gym one day at Westies, and one of the girls was like, oh, do you reckon you could do a one-handed chin-up? I was like, oh, I don't know, like I've never tried it, but I could give it a go.
You're uncomfortable, so you tried it.
Yeah, exactly. And, I was there and I did it, and then I was like, whoa, like I actually did that. Like, that's crazy. So, now it's something I
So I got a new challenge for you. So James was talking about in the last episode He actually did 120 pull-ups unbroken. So can you try and beat that?
120
Yeah, no kidding.
pull-ups.
Yeah.
Oh my
He
goodness.
puts it down to the grips that he had on his hands, but yeah, unbroken.
Oh gosh, I don't know if I can put that next to my name. Holy moly.
It's
that's
the
crazy.
Wellness League podcast, Guinness World Record starting now. He's actually, I told him to try for 10 more because 120 wasn't enough for my liking.
Hey, if it makes him uncomfortable, be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
So even if he
wow.
maybe got 10 single arm pull-ups, I think that's equivalent to 120 pull-ups.
I'll see what I can do.
Tag us when you make it happen. So you were talking about just finishing uni.
Yes.
What did you do?
So I've just finished my bachelor's in business, sport and rec management.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
There's nothing better than handing that last assignment in and getting the hell out of the uni.
Absolutely. My goodness. I honestly, I don't think it's quite hit me yet either.
Yeah, it doesn't. It won't hit you for probably a couple of years later.
Yeah. And I think, being able to go home from work or footy training and think, I don't have to open my laptop and smash out an assignment.
And you don't have to do things till 3 a.m. on the night before handing in.
Exactly. But yeah, and I think working full-time, footy's pretty much a part-time commitment. Doing uni part-time on top of that, it was quite a lot, and I think pretty happy with being able to get through all of that, and especially like with an ACL rehab as well. Knowing it was my final year of uni, a part of me did think, maybe I should just focus on the rehab, this and that, but I think I was that close and so close to finishing. I was like, nah, I just want to get it done.
Yeah, fair enough.
And yeah, it's an incredible weight, and then you look back and you go, wow, like I did that,
Yeah,
comfortable
amazing.
with being uncomfortable.
And we're back around the circle. So how expensive is your water now? Where are we buying it? In a 5-star hotel? What's the next level up from a Voss water? The importance of having a dog. How important do you think your little guy is to living the healthiest, best life?
Oh gosh, honestly. So my little guy, his name's Winston.
Yeah.
And yeah, he is honestly probably been like the rock there through all of it. When I'd had my knee injury, he'd be there like laying on my leg, just looking at me, and
I feel like when Sadie, obviously our pod dog,
yeah,
like comes and puts her head or a paw on your leg, it almost like your heart skips a beat, and I'm like, how's a dog do that?
Yeah, they genuinely like regulate your nervous system.
Yes,
it's
or when
crazy.
you're crying and they come up to you and give you a hug, it's like, oh.
Yeah. I read something the other day, and it was about how when your dog licks you, not to instantly like push them away or get grossed out, because that's their way of regulating their nervous system.
Oh, that's
yeah.
the best. So and when you take a dog for a walk and they're sniffing at everything, that's more stimulating for their brain than actually taking them for the walk.
Oh.
Here's all the dog facts. Here we go.
I love knowing like all these things about them and what they do, because like they can't talk to you.
Yeah.
Which is the positive of having them there.
Mine would be
support.
The sassiest little shit if she could talk. She'd be like, Mum, you're going to work again. Leave me in bed. Or like, dude, you're not feeding me enough. Like, seriously.
Yeah, I think Winston's complaints would be, where's the food? Where's the food? Not far off from me, to be honest.
To be honest, I don't think, I was, like, we've always had dogs growing up and they were always in the family, but I think there's no bond like getting your own dog when you move out. And I think, I don't know, now I like dogs a whole lot better since I got her.
Yeah, definitely. They play a huge part in your life, and
coming home to something,
yeah,
it's better than coming home to a human. I don't need one. I just need my dog.
Exactly. They're always happy to see you. They'll come bring you their toy, and like, it's amazing. And it's like, it's having a set of ears to listen to you that doesn't have any opinions to give back to you.
Or you have a sausage dog where their ears are 10 times bigger than a normal dog. I have this thing at the moment that I say when her ears back, she's in surround sound mode. And when she has them down, they're on noise cancelling.
Oh gosh.
When we're out at boot camp running around the park, one of the members will literally come up to her and make sure her ears are in prime position down, because she's like, it's the best. So we had a good listener question. It's facts about loss of hydration.
Oh my
I wonder
goodness.
if you know who this came from.
Oh, I have a feeling this may have been from Stritty.
Yes. Yes, it sure was.
I always preach the importance of hydration, so I'm sure the girls probably do get quite annoyed with it, but
Yeah.
at the same time, a few of them have said to me, ever since I've heard that, like, whenever I get thirsty, I'll reach for my water bottle or,
And think of you.
Yeah. So constantly, I'll always say 2% dehydration leads to a 10% loss in performance.
Wow, that's
Yes.
incredible.
Yes, and you don't realise how much impact water has on your body.
Yeah, I'm
And
like the worst for not drinking enough water. Like, honestly, I've always been told, drink more water. And now I'm going to think of you every time I do. I'm going to send you like a photo now every time.
And I'll often get that, I'll get Snapchats from the girls the day before a game, like, oh, got to get that 2%. Like, it makes you think, because it's like, wow, it does play such an important part. That water runner's coming past. Maybe don't say no. Maybe do just take a quick squirt.
Yeah.
Who knows?
So is that
You
like
kick
your
a goal instead of a point?
So your career after playing footy is to being the water runner and make sure everybody gets. I'm sure you'll be taken in by like a high up level sport, maybe even better than AFL. Like you'll be coming into, I can just imagine like a sport. I don't know, something real big.
I'll be the hydration specialist.
That's so good. Get Paige into your team. Like you don't need to know Hugh Van Cuylenberg for your mental health. You need Paige for your hydration.
Oh gosh.
That's great. So what are you consuming at the moment? Podcasts, books, TV shows?
Yeah, so a book that I'm deep into at the moment is Good Vibes, Good Life.
Oh, who by it?
By Vex King.
Okay.
So yeah, it's pretty much like a lot of different perspectives on different things that different people have gone through throughout life. And yeah, it's a real like eye-opener because it's like, you think about things that you're going through and how you process them and stuff and, how different that would be for someone else in the same shoes.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a really good one. I find it's nice to kind of break away from the world that's happening and just like immerse yourself in something else. And
yeah, nice.
Yeah.
And your favourite podcast at the moment?
Oh, it's got to be Ella and Friends. Absolutely.
The Wellness League podcast.
That's it.
Oh, that's so nice. It makes my purpose of wasting my Sunday. Well, I'm not wasting, but I mean like my Sundays to get, little record.
Yeah, definitely.
And who are you following on social media at the moment?
Oh, well, after the Women's World Cup, a lot of the Matildas.
I'm in like this, I've only just got onto TikTok. I was trying to stay away from it for so long, but since the podcast had to go on there, I had to make a podcast account. So I was like, oh, whatever. I think this happened October, long weekend. Anyway, now my stream on there is like fans making up like the funniest videos about them and like who's dating who and like their performance and like, oh, it's just like full of women's soccer and I'm not mad about it.
Exactly.
And all these fans are being like, I think I'm turning for all of it. And I'm like, okay, I'm not there yet. But
oh, yeah,
so good.
They bring so much life like to social media. A lot of the other people are like, AFLW players.
Yeah.
Probably one of my favourites is Gemma Houghton. So she's with Port at the moment and has also played like with us back at Westies. So a few of the AFLW girls came back and played a few games throughout SANFL. And yeah, just being able to get to know her and see, the things that she does and what she preaches. And it's just like the authenticity behind, the Guernsey. Like
so
it's,
good.
Yeah.
I like to finish off with a bit of 5 fast questions. I'm sure you've seen that since you've been listening in. This is actually probably my favourite part of the podcast now that we're 18 episodes in.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, so every guest I ask them 5 questions and the numbers between 1 and 20. It's the first thing that comes to your mind. I'm not letting you think. It's just spit it out. Okay, so what's your first number?
8.
Okay, number 8 is 3 things that make you happy.
Winston.
Yep.
Football. Music.
Love that. Who are you listening to at the moment? What's your go-to put on Spotify no matter what mood?
Probably Luke Combs.
Good one.
Can't go past Luke Combs.
Actually not onto his bandwagon yet, but I see him a lot on social media.
Yeah.
All right, next number.
Oh, 35.
No,
No,
that's
that's not between 1 and 20.
Is 20?
I went straight to like my Guernsey number, and then I realised
Ashley did that, and she was like, 18 is my Guernsey number, or whatever it was. It was like straight to a number of a top. Okay.
Oh, that's
What's your next
embarrassing.
number?
We'll go 18 then.
18 is, if you could do one thing to change the world, what would it be?
Ooh. Oh, that's a good one.
Anything. First thing that comes to your mind. Stop thinking.
Oh, okay. Give people more self-awareness.
Yeah. Good one. Next number.
Number 11.
Okay, 11 is, as a kid, what job did you want?
I wanted to be a professional skydiver.
Oh, that's a good one. You know, everybody who's asked that question so far, it's a race car driver, so I'm really glad that it's not that. Your next one.
Number 6.
Okay, number 6 is, on your Instagram, what are you seeing a lot of?
Oh, it's a lot of ACL rehab, to be honest. I'm sure, like, some of my followers are probably like, oh, come on, Paige, but it's almost a little bit of a, like, motivator for me as well sometimes, you know, being able to look back and
go and look at a bit of Beth Mead. She just came back from a big one. Who else? There's a few in the Arsenal football team. I've been looking at them.
Yeah.
And last number.
Oh, let's go with number 7.
Your coffee order.
Normally just a small chai latte.
Well, you're easy. Are you a simple milk?
Yeah, just normal cow's milk for me.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today. I have to say, if you haven't listened to the last 2 episodes, you will know that I did 3 episodes in a weekend. And actually, this is my favourite episode I've done out of the 3 this weekend. I don't think I've laughed this hard in a few episodes, or if not ever. I miss her. We used to be this funny at work, and that's been a couple of years since we worked together, so yeah. I hope everybody enjoyed our little water joke, and go and be your 90-cent water into your Voss water and make sure you're drinking it, because Paige is following your hydration. And where are we finding you? So where do we watch you in the next social media, and watch out for SANFL?
Yeah. Keep an eye on SANFL_official.
Yep.
I'm sure they'll, be hot on any of the upcoming events and games and stuff. My comeback game actually is my 50th.
Oh, how good. So everybody, where are we going to watch this game? Have you got the fixture yet?
We don't have the fixture just yet. I believe the game is looking to be Saturday the 2nd, and I'm really hoping it's going to be a home game at Hisense Stadium. So,
nice.
Yes, if you're free on the Saturday.
We'll come and support Paige and the Wellness League pod with your big bottle of water. Well, thanks heaps for coming on today. I really appreciate your time. And
no. Thank you so
chat.
much for having me.
Everybody do your prehab and drink some water so you be like Paige. Wow, what an amazing episode. I know I say this at the end of every episode, but honestly, everything that we kind of talked about in women's sport is quite eye-opening, coming from a female individual who plays in that area. And talking about ACLs, I knew it was a big thing, but I never realized how much that recovery process and how long it took. So hopefully that makes you appreciate people with those injuries, or people in women's sport with those injuries, a little bit more, and that recovery coming back. So it's reco time. This week on Netflix, I watched Nyad. It's, quick 2-hour movie. I watched it over 2 nights. I highly recommend, though. It's about a lady called Diana Nyad. It's a real story, so it's a movie based on that. And she attempts to swim from Cuba to Florida, which is 100 miles or 160 kilometers. But yeah, very interesting how somebody could try one of the hardest things in the world. It didn't take 1 time, it took 5 to get it right. So yeah, good watch. Go and watch that on Netflix, and I'll tag it in the show notes. And talking about recommendations, why don't you send this podcast to a friend? Since we love sharing good things, and also, as Paige said, remember to stay hydrated. So please like and share us on Spotify, YouTube, or Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening to us. If you like this ep as much as we did making it, please tell a friend. If not, share it to your social media stories, because that really helps. But, help this little pod grow. But anyway, have a wonderful rest of your day. Have the best week, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Bye.